All right, today we are diving deep into a really fascinating and, yeah, pretty controversial 1977 speech by Sun Myung Moon called The Living Sacrifice. We're going to break down its core arguments piece by piece to really wrap our heads around what is a truly unique vision of faith and redemption.
So the entire speech really hinges on this one powerful, almost mysterious phrase. What in the world does it mean to be a living sacrifice? That is the central question, and it's exactly what we're going to unpack right now.
To get to the answer, though, we've got to start with the problem. The speech kicks off with this foundational idea. The fall of man created this huge chasm between humanity and God. And that separation, that's precisely why sacrifice became necessary in the first place.
So what even is sacrifice in this context? Well, it's not just about giving something up. According to this speech, it's a very specific tool. Think of it like a mechanism designed for one purpose, to draw a line between good and evil, and to restore God's rightful ownership over a creation that had been lost.
And this isn't a one-and-done kind of thing. The speech lays out this really clear, layered process. To bring all of creation back, an acceptable sacrifice has to be made at every single level. You start with the individual, which builds to the family, then society, the nation, and finally the entire world.
Now this is where things get interesting. The speech takes this whole idea of sacrifice and applies it to probably the most famous example, the mission of Jesus. It frames his life as the ultimate sacrifice, but then it introduces this really provocative twist, that this offering was actually left incomplete. And here is the crucial distinction it makes. According to the text, Jesus' mission was a total spiritual success. His spirit was pure, and it was accepted by God. But, it argues, it was a physical failure. Why? Because the people, humanity, weren't united with him to actually complete that offering here on earth.
This quote right here gets to the absolute heart of the logic. The speech is basically asking, since the whole point of the sacrifice was to benefit humanity, how could it have its full value if humanity didn't participate? Their involvement was an essential ingredient, and it was missing from the recipe.
So, what happens when a mission that important is left unfinished? Well, according to the speech, the consequence was immediate, and it's been lasting for centuries, the total fragmentation of Christianity itself.
The text uses a metaphor that's really familiar, right? The church as the body of Christ. But the picture it paints isn't one of unity. It's an image of that body being violently torn to pieces.
And to really hammer home just how severe this division is, the speech uses this incredible analogy. The church isn't just cracked, it's like a vase that's been shattered into 1,000 tiny pieces. The damage is so bad, it says, that just trying to glue the old pieces back together is basically impossible. Okay, so if you can't just glue the pieces back together, what's the alternative? This brings us to the speech's proposed solution, which it presents as a completely revolutionary approach to unity.
First off, it's very clear about what not to do. The goal is not to try and repair the old structures. It's not about finding some common ground between all the existing denominations. That shattered vase just can't be fixed with glue.
Instead of repair, the speech calls for a total transformation. The real solution, it says, is to take all those broken shards, throw them into a furnace, melt them down completely, and then remold them into something brand new, something entirely different. It's a call for a complete reinvention.
So why create this radical, new, unified body? What's the point? Well, it's to finally finish the mission. It's to become the vessel for the one thing that's been missing all this time, a complete and final offering to God.
Now, this requires a massive shift in the very nature of faith. The speech draws a sharp contrast between what it calls beggar's prayers, asking God for personal salvation, for blessings, and the prayer of a living sacrifice. The second kind of prayer isn't about asking for anything. It's a prayer of offering, basically saying, I will take on your burden, your sorrow, and finish your work.
So now here we are, at the final definition, the living sacrifice. It isn't a single person. It's a collective. It's a fully unified body of believers who stop passively waiting for salvation and start actively taking on the responsibility for restoring the world, for completing the mission on God's behalf.
For an individual follower, this means you have to inherit the mission personally. You have to start seeing the world through this new lens. This is my God. These are my people. You have to take personal responsibility for restoring the world. It's really about picking up the torch and physically completing the work that Jesus started.
So the speech leaves us with this final, massive idea. It completely reframes the role of a believer, from someone who just passively receives grace to someone who is an active participant in a cosmic mission. It says the work isn't finished. And the real question it poses to us is this: what if salvation isn't something you just wait for, but something you are responsible for building, together, as a living sacrifice?